everyone, my name is Miss Sam and today I'm going to be walking you through February's Let's Get Crafty stitch by number. Let's go. So in your craft bag this month you're going to have a piece of paper that has your hearts examples as well as the corresponding numbered heart example next to it. You'll find some heart cutouts. You'll have a small plastic yarn needle. So this is plastic, it's not very sharp, but still be careful with that. And then you're gonna find some yarn. All of the yarn is going to come from a really fun rainbow skein of yarn, so you could get some really fun colors. So you might not have blue and purple. And then from home, you're gonna need something to write with to number your templates, and then a pair of scissors to cut off any excess yarn, and a piece of tape for attaching your yarn to your hearts. So there are 5 different hearts that we are going to be looking at today. There are only 4 heart templates in your bag though, so you don't get to do all of them. You can do all of the same one, you can make all of them different, it's entirely up to you, but I'm gonna start with the Overcast and Whip Stitch and show you that one first. So let's go ahead and get rid of all this. And I have already numbered this first heart, so if you need to go ahead and number yours, go ahead and pause the video and you can do that. Otherwise, I'm gonna just go ahead and take my first strand of yarn and pull it through. And if you are having problems pulling yours through, like if yours unravels like mine did and you can't get it through, feel free to take a piece of tape and wrap it around the end of the yarn and then poke it through. It makes it a little bit easier. So I have my numbers here in pencil. I'm gonna actually flip it over, and on the back side I'm gonna take the end of my yarn and I'm going to tape it down. Really well so I don't pull it out. All right, then I'm gonna look at the side that has numbers because those are gonna tell me what to do first. We can get this out of the way. And I'm gonna take my needle and go up from the back and pull it through all the way. And you don't wanna pull it super, super tight, but you want it to be, you don't want it to be loose. So don't pull super hard. And then I'm gonna put my yarn over, and from behind, I'm gonna go up through hole number 2 and pull it through. And this is the same thing we're gonna do all the way around. This is called an overcast or a whip stitch. Up behind and pull it through. And remember, we don't want to pull it super tight, we want it kind of just loose. All right. And I'm going to speed through this because it's going to be the same thing all the way around. So if this is the one you want to do, go ahead and follow along. And as we're getting to the end here, finish up. We're on our last one. So we're gonna go through like we normally would, and then we're gonna put it to the back, flip it over, and I'm gonna take another piece of tape. I'm gonna use 2 actually. And tape it down, and then I'm gonna snip off my excess, and look at that, beautiful. So now you have a really cool empty space in the middle. You could write a lovely little Valentine or someone's name or your own name, draw a face or something really cool if you want to, and you could give this to someone as a Valentine. Otherwise, let's set up for our next heart. can see that our next heart is going to be the running stitch. This one is numbered the exact same way as our Overcast whip stitch. So I'm gonna go ahead and number around here. Alright, I've got all of them numbered, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my yarn ready. And again, remember, if you're having a hard time getting your yarn through, you can go ahead and tape one end to pull it through. Alright, and we're gonna flip it over again here and tape the yarn down. Alright, so just like the Overcast stitch, I'm gonna go back behind and start at hole number 1. But this time, instead of going over the edge, I'm gonna go down right into hole number 2. So I'm gonna go over, and then I'm gonna come under and up through hole number 3. So it's a pretty simple stitch, and you're gonna run that stitch all the way around your heart. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm all the way at the end here. I've got my tail, and remember, we don't want to go too tight around the edges. So if your heart is bending and pulling, you might want to go back and kind of loosen it up a little bit. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and tape the back here. And trim up my extra yarn. And this one is very similar to our Overcast stitch, our whip stitch here, where there's an empty center. So if you want to write a little note, or like I said, give this as a Valentine, that could be really special for someone. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get ready for our next heart, the parallel pattern. Okay, so my video actually cut out for a second here, so I don't have the video of me numbering around here. But make sure that when you're numbering this heart, you're careful. This one isn't the same as the last two. The numbers are different going all around the heart. So just make sure to look at your pattern and to very carefully write the numbers down. If it's too hard to try to find where number 1 starts, feel free to start here in the middle and go around if that's easier for you. Otherwise, whatever works best for you will be fine. I'm sorry, I don't have the video of that. Otherwise, we can go ahead and thread our yarn through our yarn needle. And oops, before we forget, we'll tape it to the back here. All right, so just like the other ones, we're gonna start through the back, through hole number 1. And remember, hole number 1 is over here now, so just be careful. We're going through the right number here. So we're gonna go up through number 1. Remember, don't pull too tight, because if you pull too tight, your heart's gonna bend here and it might fold. Then we're gonna go down through hole number 2. We're gonna go up through hole number 3. And you're gonna see that your pattern here is gonna come through pretty quickly. So now 4 is up here, so we're gonna go all the way up to number 4 and go down through hole number 4. And you can already see that we have those 2 lines. So we're gonna keep going up and down, across the heart, in and then out. So let's go ahead and speed that up for you. ones here. So 21 and 22. And we're gonna go ahead and, like the others, flip it over, tape it nicely to the back, trim it up, and we have our parallel pattern. So now this pattern is a little different than our other ones. So with like our overcast stitch, we have it empty in the center here. This one has less empty space, but if you still wanted, you could write little words here or names or a nice little letter to someone. But again, you don't have to do that, and you can always keep your hearts to yourself if you want. Otherwise, we are done with our parallel pattern and we are ready to get started on our sunrise pattern. So you can see that the sunrise pattern is a little different than the other ones. We're not going to use all of the holes going around the heart. So when you number them, we're actually not going to number the first hole. It's going to be a little star because we're always going to go back to the star after we do a stitch. And I'll explain more what that means. Now, if you want to go all the way around the heart, you absolutely can. And once we get to that point, I will explain to you how to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and label my heart in the same way as it is on the paper. So let's go. Alright, so I have my heart labeled 1 through 11. If you wanted to do the full heart with the sunrise pattern, you would just keep numbering until you got to 21. But I'm just going to show you how to do the first half of this heart today. So I'm going to go ahead and thread my yarn through my needle. And I think this yarn is a little frayed, so you can see that this yarn is frayed. So I'm actually going to show you how, if it's too hard, you can take a little piece of tape, wrap it around the end of your yarn, so it kind of looks like a shoelace, and then you can squeeze it through your yarn needle here, a little bit easier. And then, because I don't want it to get caught in my heart in the holes, we're gonna just snip that off. So there you go. So I'm gonna do the same thing we do for every other one, and I'm gonna tape this to the back here. I'm actually gonna tape it this way so the yarn is pointing down, excuse me, because we're gonna start from the bottom instead of the top. So, all right. So we have the little star at the bottom of our heart. We're going to go up through the star hole. And then we're going to start at number 1. We're going to go down through number 1. And instead of going up through number 2, we're actually going to go back through the bottom hole that's marked with a star. So we'll go back through that one, pull the yarn all the way through so we don't have any loose yarn, and then we're going to go through hole number 2. Like that. Then we're going to go, instead of going up through 3, we're going to go back through the star, the hole with the star. And then we're going to come up and down through hole number 3. And we're going to keep going like that all the way around. So you're going to go through the number, and then you're going to come back through the star hole. And then through the number. All the way around. Getting to the end here. Now, if you would like to keep going around your heart, you can. Just know that you might not have enough yarn, so you might have to put 2 pieces of yarn together if you want to do that. I am gonna stop here because I will tell you what I want to do with this one. So we'll tape it to the back here, like we did our other hearts. Alright, so now you can see on this heart, like some of our other hearts, you have a nice little blank space so you can write a little message to someone you love or a friend that you love. So it could be a really nice little Valentine. Again though, you don't have to do that. But we are now ready to get started on our last pattern, the crisscross pattern. This one is going to be a little more difficult. So let's get started. So for our crisscross pattern, like I said, this is the most difficult pattern I think that we have for you. So when you go to put your numbers on your heart, just be very careful that you're putting them in the right spots. So I would double check before you start stitching with your yarn, just in case we might have mixed up some numbers here. So I am going to very carefully start numbering my heart. Alright, and just like all the others, you will end up with 22 holes. So if you count and you have more or less than 22, go ahead and double check those numbers because you might have missed something somewhere. Otherwise, we can go ahead and get started. First things first, we're going to thread the yarn through the needle. Alright, and then just like the others, we're going to go ahead and tape our yarn to the back here. Alright, so for this one, we're still going to start from the back, so you're going to push up through hole number 1, which is still in the middle, and then go down through hole number 2. And then over here, we're going to go up through hole number 3. And then all the way up here, we're going to go down through hole number 4. So you're going to be going back and forth to different sides of your heart to create this cool crisscross pattern. Through 5 and down through 6. And we're going to keep going around and make sure that you're going to the next number and we're not going to skip anything, or else it might look a little funky, but if it does, that's also okay. So let's speed this up for you. Right. That one, and might be a little hard to see that last hole, so we've got 22 all the way up here, and I am at the end of my yarn. So I'm gonna tape it to the back, and I don't have a long tail to cut off for this one, but we're gonna trim it up anyways. All right. Oh look, you've got a little running stitcher on the back. So on the back here we have, or on the front here, this one isn't going to have very much space for a note either. But if you wanted to try to put some words in there, you absolutely could. Otherwise, you are all done. Alright guys, I hope you had so much fun making these. These would be a great Valentine's gift for friends or family, or if you just want to use them for yourself and decorate your space, that is also a great idea. Happy Valentine's Day from Glen Carvin Library. Bye!